Alright, and we're back with another budget location. This budget location is Atlanta, Georgia. We are going to go over some realistic budgeting, a trip for 2 adults, but keep in mind that whenever you are traveling, if you can travel in a group, that does cut your cost because why? You divide everything by that number. So instead of dividing in half, if you travel with 4 people, you would divide it into fours, which could cut down your room and board. And depending on how you're getting there, it could also bring down your traveling, like transportation wise, such as gas. If you're traveling with someone or people, instead of breaking it down into halves, you could do it into fours. But let's get into it. All you need realistically is 3 days. That is not counting your arrival and departure days. 3 things you need to keep in mind: how to get there, bus, car, train, plane. Heck, if you want to walk, go for it. Where are you going to stay? Hotel, friend, family, or Airbnb. If you have family that does really not mind you bring in guests, go ahead. A friend, awesome. What to do? There is so much to do in regards to just keeping yourself busy, but 3 days is realistically all you need, unless you have an event to attend, like a concert or something like that. But here is a basic idea of just how flights are going right now. As everyone knows, with all this pandemic going on, flights are super cheap. So I try to just look for flights as far as February of next year to give you more of a realistic idea of how much your flight could cost. Now then again, my departure may be different from your departure, but this is a good time to honestly look, just to try to plan stuff out. Another thing is, well, bus routes, it does not really change whether there's a pandemic or not. Buses are cheap, but just depends on how bad you want to go. But they can be super cheap. Yes, they have stops and you may have to change buses, but it's a cheap way to get there. Same with trains. It does cut into your travel time because I've never honestly traveled by train, but from my knowledge of it, it's slower. So that cuts into your trip time. But if you have the time, I say go for it. I mean, doesn't hurt to travel by train. Doesn't really hurt. It's a new experience, as I guess you could say. But hotels. The hotels in the area, I always go for at least 4 stars, just to be on the safe, clean side. Then again, that's my preference. If you're willing to bend it a little bit, hey, you can find real cheap hotels out in Atlanta. Depending on also what area you're trying to stay in. As I said, preferences. Preferences really bend or give your budget that flexibility. I'm a Hilton person. I do Hyatt. I do La Quintas. I'm really into Airbnbs right now, but the last hotel that I stayed at was, I think it was a Hampton. Yes, the last one I stayed in was a Hampton. But even for this to be Atlanta, I mean, pretty good pricing. Then again, this research was done during this pandemic. So, it could vary, but I always say there's a will, there's a way. And if you want to really go, Airbnb's pricings haven't really changed. And I've been researching things for the past 3 days. And to be honest, none of the prices on Airbnbs have really changed dramatically. So that's a good way, honestly, if you want to go ahead and research a trip. Airbnb, Sam, I'm biased because I really like them so far. But it's 90 to keep in mind. For example, here is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, tiny house Airbnb that's in Atlanta, Georgia. It's in Edgewood, but it's in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's only $80 a night. $80 times 3. Think about it. 120. Divide it in half, or depending on how flexible you are, divide it by 3 people. And just bring an air mattress. It could work. But let's go ahead and move right along into attractions. There's the CNN studio tours, which could range as cheap as $14, or you can get up to $50 based off of what type of tour you're trying to do. With this, they provide exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the world headquarters of CNN in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. So think about it. You can get a basic tour, you and your friends, for $14, and you get to find out the ins and outs of CNN. Sounds pretty good to me, to be honest. Moving right along. The beautiful and gorgeous Georgia Aquarium. Like any other aquarium, you get to see and explore a world under the sea, which with whales, sharks, beluga whales, and other fascinating other marine life, and you get to take awesome pictures. And really, I love aquariums. This is the only captivity I like, because you just really get to see them in as close as a natural habitat as possible. So I really like that. The National Center for Civil and Human Rights is another one that's, I think, pretty cheap location. Basically, it connects the American civil rights movement to today's global human rights movement. I love things like this because it takes what you learn in school or what you're already learning through documentaries and stuff like that, and really bringing it into perspective for people. Well, at least in my opinion. High Museum of Art. Who doesn't like to explore artwork? I love to explore artwork because it just gives you a moment to just calmly be exposed to things you on a day-to-day basis would not be exposed to. And depending on when you go, they might have some amazing exhibits being presented. So I always say, if you've never been to an art museum, check it out. You might surprise yourself. And then the Sky View of Atlanta. This is honestly one of the most must-have attractions, I would say, because who doesn't like a super huge Ferris wheel, and that is climate controlled, and it has private little things that you can ride in, providing you with like awesome views and awesome chances for some lovely pictures and conversation. What's wrong with that? And it's not even that bad. And then free. I love places that you can go explore that are free. It helps your budget, trust me. And then the fact that it was the place that in the 1996 Olympic Games was centered of. I mean, seriously. Like, and then plus everything that, all the other things I just introduced to you, surround it. So you can literally go there, hang out, and then go explore the other things that we just talked about. Now, a lot of people don't really know about this. I didn't really know about it until recently. But the world of Coca-Cola, you can spend the day interacting with multiple exhibits, learning about the history of Coca-Cola, sampling more than 100 different beverages from around the world. I bet you didn't realize that Coca-Cola has been around forever. So they have so much history and so much things to provide that you can actually learn about it in this museum. And then naturally, if you're going to go to Georgia, why not visit the home of Martin Luther King Jr.? I mean, seriously, this is where he was born. Just take that in for a second. This is where he was born. This is where his grandparents, his parents, siblings, and other family members and all that, they were located here. Just to learn about him in the place where he was born, enough said. Why not go there? And then another thing that people don't really know about are the Atlanta movie tours. You can go to a cheap basic one, it's just $25, or you can go to like a 3-hour movie tour where you get to just you get to just engulf yourself in the rich film history of the area. And they transport you, showing you clips of the locations you're seeing in person. Like, think about that. Something that you've seen in a movie, you're seeing it in person. So, if that doesn't bring you to really just want to go to Atlanta and see that it's possible for you to go to Atlanta, I don't know what else to say. I always sit there and say, if you really want to go somewhere, then you'll make it happen. And budgeting and being thrifty is a way to go. It's a way to get you traveling and going places that you never thought you would be able to go. So I hope it helps. As always, subscribe.